This meeting is being held in compliance with the Brown Act. SCAG offices are open for members of the public to attend and participate in person. Instructions for providing public comment have been provided in advance and are also included in the agenda packet. Members of the public participating remotely should ensure their microphone is muted when not in use. Any member of the public calling into this meeting by telephone can press *6 to mute and unmute. All telephone participants should identify themselves prior to speaking. SCAG encourages all members of the public to participate in its meetings. We are committed to holding meetings accessible to people with disabilities. For members of the public requiring ADA accommodation, please call 213-630-1410. SCAG offers free interpretation services for members of the public needing information in another language. Please call 213-236-1895. The meeting will now begin.
Okay, welcome and good afternoon. If I could have everyone take their seat. Good afternoon. Today is Thursday, September 4th, 2025, and the meeting of Regional Council is now called to order. Welcome. Please note, due to a glitch with the handheld voting devices, we will be doing roll call votes in meeting today. So sorry about that. Board Counsel Mike Moore, please proceed to announce members who will be participating via the ADA accommodations.
Thank you, Chair. I believe we do have 2 members participating via the ADA accommodations, and this would be participating online as a reasonable accommodation under the ADA. So it would be member Nikki Perez and member Frank Navarro. And we would ask that if you both could keep your videos on during the duration of the meeting. And then, Chair, we also did have a late request for an AB 2449 accommodation. And this is from member Lucy Dunn. And I believe if we have Lucy on, if she's able to announce that she is participating under the just cause exemption due to an illness. Also keep your audio and visual on during the meeting. And if you could let us know if there's anyone in the room with you who's 18 or older.
AD, can you please allow Lucy to unmute?
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much, Madam President, and I apologize for not being there. I am participating remotely under Just Cause as I just bruised my ribs and can't travel. So I apologize for not making the meeting, and I miss you all. There is no one in the room under the age of 18 unless you count my little pug, Rocky. And we'll keep my audio and visual on during the meeting. Thank you for the accommodation.
And thank you, Madam President. That concludes our Brown Act admin we have to get through so we can move on to the meeting.
Well, awesome. And Lisa, we wish you a speedy recovery. So thank you, the members that are here in person and those online. Madam Clerk, can you confirm we have a quorum?
Madam President, we do have a quorum.
Perfect. Okay, I will now open the public comment period. Do we have any written public comments?
None have been received by the deadline, Madam President.
Okay. Do we have any members of the public who wish to speak?
We don't have any speaker cards for that either.
Okay. Well, I will now close the public comment period for matters not listed on the agenda. I am going to ask for the Pledge of Allegiance, and I'm going to ask Honorable Gary Gardner to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Thank you. Face the flag, put your hand over your heart, and join me in saluting our nation's flag. Ready? Begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, so now we're going to go to the chair reports. So I'm going to call on the Honorable David Shapiro from the Community Economy and Human Development Committee. David.
Thank you, Madam President. Today, the CHD Policy Committee heard 2 informational items. First, the committee heard from a panel on shared equity homeownership models, innovative strategies included within the Connect SoCal 2024 that create a means for individuals and families with qualifying incomes to become homeowners at below market prices. For this panel, we received presentations from 2 speakers, Margie Brown, Executive Director of the Urban Homesteading Assistance Board, and Devin Culbertson, Vice President of Innovative Finance at Grounded Solutions Network. They spoke about co-op and rent-to-own options for our communities potentially. Afterwards, our committee received a demographic data update from Dr. Kevin Kane, SCAG's Planning Supervisor of Forecasting and Spatial Analytics. A great preview for our October first event here. The information from this presentation is vital to completing the work of our committee, which requires an up-to-date understanding of the region's people, housing, and jobs, both today and where we're heading in the future. Lastly, the CHD committee welcomed new committee members, Victoria Garcia from San Fernando, Sharona Nazarian from Beverly Hills, Sheila Rossi from South Pasadena, Valerie Vanderveer from San Jacinto, Betty Martinez Franco from Irvine, and Megan Kerr from Long Beach. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, next, the Honorable Rick Dennison from the Energy and Environment Committee. Rick?
Thank you, Madam President. Today we had a great meeting in the EEC. We had one action item and 5 informational items. So we started off with the committee approved the sub-regional sustainable community strategy framework and guidelines for use in development of the 2028 through 2050 regional transportation plan, and of course the sustainable community strategy. After that, we had our first information item, which we kicked off with a review of the EEC agenda items planning through June of 26. And I'll say we have quite a lot to cover and some great topics that we'll bring forward to this board later. We then provided an overview of the Innovative Clean Transit Study, including the process, timeline, and desired outcomes for that study. We moved on to providing an overview of the SCAG's Natural and Agriculture Lands Economic and Resilience Benefit Study. Technical work is underway for this study, and engagement will begin this fall. In our final item, we had a panel on ecosystem services with an economist and staff member from a regional conservation district that gave us an overview of the ecosystem services from natural and agricultural lands, such as carbon sequestration and water storage. And that was about a 40-minute presentation, but I'll tell you, we probably would have had that much discussion following. So I think it's something we'll look at a little bit deeper as we move forward into our next year. And also, I'd like to welcome again, as we did in the meeting, Daniel Brotman from Glendale, from the Aurora Verdugo communities, or Verdugo, I'm sorry. And then Martha Cardina Singh from Imperial County. They're new members on the EEC, and we're glad to have them aboard.
Thank you. Next, the Honorable Mike Judge from the Transportation Committee. Mike?
Thank you, Madam President. TC met today, heard 2 short informational presentations from staff, and approved 3 action items. 2 of the action items, the items approved by the Transportation Committee, will come before the Regional Council. These items are critical to the ongoing progress and support of SCAG's regional planning efforts and member support. Annie Nam provided with an update on the Transportation Committee outlook and future agenda items, which gives the committee an opportunity to understand future priorities for SCAG and the committee's ongoing efforts to support the Regional Council. Rachel Alm provided an update on planning for Main Streets program. This project is designed to support ongoing multimodal transportation efforts along with community events and activities throughout the region. It will facilitate collaboration between Caltrans, local agencies, and SCAG, as these studies areas encompass state routes located within city borders. The committee took action to approve the 2024 Solutions for Congested Corridors Program grant for the Metrolink Sustainable Locomotive Replacement Project, which had a very lively conversation. The 2007 Federal Transportation Improvement Program, and the Invest in Clean LMFP rebate program. Thank you.
Well, thank you, everyone, for the chair's report. As I noted earlier, we will not be using the handheld voting devices today. We have a total of 3 votes today, in addition to several presentations. So in order to maximize our time, and we like to maximize our time here at SCAG because we have a lot to get done, we are going to be doing 1 roll call vote for items 1 and 2 and the consent calendar. So please hold off on making a motion until we've gone through all of these items. So we're going to go to our first action item, and that's the program development framework to support the 2028 Olympic and Paralympic Games. And I'm going to call on our Chief Planning Officer, Sarah Jepson, to present the item.
Okay, good afternoon, Madam Chair and members of the Regional Council. As I said, my name is Sarah Jepson, and I'm the Chief Planning Officer here at SCAG. We have several items to cover as part of this agenda item today. I'm going to kick things off with a focus on our work at SCAG in support of the Games, and then after public comment, We will move to the featured panel discussion that Kome is going to facilitate, where we will have members of LA 28 and leaders from some of our non-venue cities talk about ways that they've been actively working to ensure that the games benefit their local communities and their local economies. So the first thing that I want to highlight, which is something that has been called for by many of you, is that we have updated our website to include a dedicated games webpage, which will provide information on SCAG's work in support of the games. So that web address is scag.ca.gov/LA28. And it includes contact information for anyone interested in learning more about our work and engaging with our team. It includes a map to highlight some of the features of the transportation system. It provides location of the venues and non-venue sites that are part of the games, and provides some other data layers to support local and regional planning. This map will evolve over time, but we see it as a really important resource to support our transportation demand management work for the game. The website also has a link to the Transportation Demand Management Resource Guide, it's like this, that we developed in partnership with the Games Mobility Executives as a first step to support local jurisdictions with transportation demand management planning for the games. And I really want to thank our planning team and our communication team and our IT team for making sure all these resources could be available for you today. The next item I want to draw your attention to today is the Games Program Development Framework, which can be found in full in your packet on page 17. In June, the EAC received a full presentation on the framework and recommended that the Regional Council approve it here today. I want to give you a quick recap of the Program Development Framework and why we are asking for your approval today. Over the last year, we've had several presentations at the EAC and at the Regional Council on the upcoming 2028 Olympic and Paralympic Games. And these presentations were aimed at expanding our collective understanding of the scope of the games and opportunities for SCAG and the region to prepare to welcome the world in 2028. Based on these conversations, our staff worked with the EAC on the development of the Comprehensive Program Development Framework to direct our staff work and our resources in support of the games. The framework establishes a high-level program goal, which is that Southern California will showcase our thriving communities, support local businesses, and invest in the transportation improvements, programs, and policies necessary to leave a lasting legacy in the region. And here at SCAG, we're very much focused on the legacy and the benefits that the games will continue to have for years to come. In this framework, we also define 4 main objectives for our work to clearly define SCAG's role in meeting our goal. And these objectives are optimizing investment in legacy infrastructure, accelerating innovations through pilot projects, fostering alignment of policies and programs across our jurisdictions to manage demand for the games and beyond, and showcasing communities by supporting local placemaking and community development opportunities associated with the games. Our framework also includes some guiding principles to ensure that our efforts are aligned with the policy priorities in Connect SoCal, our long-range plan, as well as some high-level strategies and some preliminary set of projects that we'll be working on. So we've appreciated the support and engagement of the board over the last year as we've put together this framework, and we will look forward to providing you regular updates on this work as it continues in the future. So I think with that, we have the opportunity to turn this over to public comment, and then I'm available for any questions after the public comment.
Thank you very much. Do we have any members of the public that wish to speak on item number 1?
Madam President, we have not received any speaker cards and I don't see anyone online.
Thank you. Okay, I will entertain comments from the RC. So if you have any comments, you can just put your name card at the side and we'll do our best to get to everyone.
Move approval.
Okay, I don't see any. Okay, all right. So we're going to hold off on the motions till the end. So okay, so thank you on this item. We also have a panel of guest speakers from jurisdictions around the region who will share with us about their efforts and part of the game. So at this point, I am going to introduce Kome Ajise to introduce the panel.
If the panel members will please join us up here.
Thanks. Sit down. Please. Sure. Vic? Mayor? And then. And.
Oh, there?
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
We have everybody? All right. Well, thanks for your patience and bearing with us in that transition. We wanted to have this conversation about LA 28, the LA Games, I should say, with respect to the non-venue cities specifically. And we have, I think we have a very able panel here with us. And it's my privilege to introduce Vic Noel, Government Relations Officer with LA 28. They're all going to introduce themselves through their introductory remarks. So I'm just going to mention the names of who's here so you know. We also have with us an Olympian and council member from the city of Mission Viejo, Brian Goodell. Mr. Goodell has been a member of this body, so you all know him well. And we're also glad to welcome Mayor Dan O'Brien from Culver City to also talk about their quest. So the point here is when this conversation started across the region about the games, we've always felt like the games are not just going to be in Los Angeles. The games are going to be regional. There will be impacts, whether you have a venue or not. There will be impacts across the region. Folks are going to stay in different places across the region, and folks will stay before and after the games to explore the goodness of our region. After all, we live here, so we know it's cool here. So people that come here are going to want to see the things that make us stay here. And so we wanted to take this opportunity to have a conversation about what are the things to expect, or how are some non-venue cities acting in terms of taking advantage of the potential of the games in their communities. But to start, we want to hand it over to our LA 28 panel member, Vic, to sort of give us an opening presentation on the games itself, so you all have a good context of what these games would look like. Vic?
Thank you, Kame. Appreciate it. Just PowerPoint up here. Thank you, Kame and SCAG, for having us here today. My name is Vic Noel. I'm the Director of Venue Cities Relations at LA 28. I'm responsible for the venue cities outside of the host city of LA that will be hosting events during the games, as well as LA County. I have my colleague, Rachel Chu, in the audience here. Rachel is on our government relations team, and she's actually responsible for the non-venue cities. So a lot of questions coming in from those non-venue cities, and happy to connect Rachel with you guys afterwards. I've got a brief presentation here, but as was mentioned earlier, there have been several LA 28 presentations here already. So I'm going to try to go through this fairly quickly and get to the slide that I think most people are interested in, which is the slide about opportunities for non-venue cities that Mayor O'Brien and Councilmember Goodell will be speaking about a little later. So, but to start, I'm going to share a little video. Thank you. Oops. As we all apologize. As we all know, in 2028, LA will be hosting its third Olympic Games. The city of LA will be joining only London and Paris as the third city in the world to have ever hosted 3 Olympic Games. But really exciting for us, this will also be the first time that the city hosts its first Paralympic Games. So if any of you had the opportunity to see any of the Paralympics in Paris last summer, I think you all agree that the Paralympic Games offers a unique and unbelievable sporting event that is as exciting and even more exciting in some ways than the Olympic Games. So really encourage you all to watch that. LA28 is actually a nonprofit organization that stood up just for these games. We will cease to exist after the 2028 games. Every games has a separate organizing committee that stood up for the games. And obviously, we're going to be here in LA, in the Southern California region, in our venue cities, and even beyond, actually, in the city of Oklahoma City as well, for these games. I'll get into a little bit about that later. A little bit about the games by the numbers. These games will be the biggest games, Olympic or Paralympic, in history. The numbers are staggering. 15 million spectators, over 11,000 Olympic athletes from around the world coming to Los Angeles, over 4,000 Paralympic athletes, $18 billion in economic output. And we expect over 150 heads of state from all across the world to be joining us here in Southern California. 5 billion viewers from around the world. So really just unprecedented opportunity in terms of showcasing not just the city of LA and our venue cities, but the whole region and the United States for the world. Don't like to compare the games to other events, but in this case, I will. Just to help put it into context for people, the last Super Bowl that was held at SoFi Stadium had about 60 to 70,000 ticketed spectators, about 70,000 room nights, and that just was for one day. The LA 28 games will have 13 million ticketed spectators, a million room nights. And for us, the numbers are so staggering that to help put it into context for people, it's the equivalent of putting on about 7 Super Bowls per day over the course of the 16 days of the Olympic Games and 2 Super Bowls per day over the 12 days of the Paralympic Games. You may have heard recently that we've basically near finalized our Olympic and Paralympic plan. This is kind of a bit of an eye chart, but you can see that the games will be spread out across the region, in the city of LA, in our venue cities, Long Beach, Carson, Anaheim, Inglewood, Pomona, Arcadia, Pasadena, and beyond. Oklahoma City, I mentioned as well. And a lot of people ask why Oklahoma City. The reason is that these are no-build games. The United States does it very differently than other parts of the world. We live here in Southern California, and we're blessed with having world-class venues, better than anywhere else in the world. So we don't need to build stadiums from the ground up. We don't need to build an athlete village from the ground up. We have UCLA where we're going to be having our athlete village. Some of our venues weren't even online when we originally bid for these games, such as SoFi or for Intuit Dome. So we're really blessed there that we won't be doing any permanent builds. The builds that we will be doing will be temporary in nature to take advantage of that. And part of that, with respect to Oklahoma City, is that a lot of people don't know this, but Oklahoma City has 2 of the best venues. One for specifically for canoe slalom, one of the best in the country, and they have actually the best softball stadium in the country that is host of the women's NCAA World Series every year. So they will be taking part in these games as well. Here's a map of our Paralympic plan. You can see very much still spread across the region. And then this is the slide that I was talking about before, because this is really a games for everyone. And that also includes our municipalities, right? It's not just about the city of LA and the venue cities. So things to think about in terms of opportunities, I'll start with live sites. We're still developing this plan, but what we're thinking about right now is that if a municipality wants to host an LA 28 sanctioned live site, it would simply sign a simple agreement with us, and we would provide that municipality with what we're calling like a live site in a box, meaning we kind of tell you the parameters, what to do. You get one-time use of our marks. You get authorization to use the NBC feed, and you as the municipality would be responsible for putting it on and the costs for putting it on. You would put it on in like a park or a community center that you have jurisdiction over, and you would be responsible for staffing it, providing the municipal services such as police and EMTs for that event for your community. And LA 28 doesn't charge a fee for that or anything like that. Municipalities will often ask me like, well, what is that going to cost us? And it's really up to you. It's up to how big you want it to be. If you think that you want to do something big, maybe it's going to cost you more. But if you want to do something smaller for the community, it's really up to you. We're not trying to put a lot of constraints on that. So that's certainly something for different jurisdictions to think about. The next thing is training venues. I mentioned that the Athlete Village will be at UCLA, and we'll also have a couple of other LA 28 training venues. But there are national Olympic committees, national Paralympic committees that are well resourced, that are going to come into town, that are going to want their own training venues. And they're already looking. We have set up a pre-games training survey that was sent pretty broadly to every city manager in LA County, as well as Orange County, and beyond as well. If there are other municipalities that are interested, that link is still open. So we're happy to share that with you. But basically, it allows a municipality to say, hey, I have an Olympic-sized pool that, we'd like to offer up as a potential opportunity. We vet that internally within LA 28. And then if it meets that initial vet, it gets published on a private website that only National Olympic Committees and National Paralympic Committees have access to. And they can kind of drill down if they're looking for a pool or a field or whatever by a certain venue or in a certain location, they can see those things. The municipality lists who that point of contact with the city is. And then it's up to the National Olympic Committee or National Paralympic Committee to make contact and work out an agreement directly between the NOC and NPC and the municipality to use that facility. Again, LA 28 doesn't charge a fee for anything like that. We're merely a convener in that space. When I looked at the list this morning, I can say that we have nearly 270 approved pre-games training sites that have made it onto that list. And like I said, the link is still open, so we're happy to share that with SCAG, and maybe SCAG could share it with its members. Hospitality, as I mentioned, amazing amounts of people from across the country, from around the world, that will be descending upon Southern California for these games. And a lot of people are thinking about this in terms of like, oh, just hospitality of tourists. But a lot of people don't realize that LA 28 also needs hotel rooms. And we've been working across the region to acquire hotel room blocks for our stakeholders, meaning National Olympic Committees, National Paralympic Committees, the officials that come in to work on these games, some of our commercial partners, et cetera. And so those agreements, when the last I checked, we are approaching agreements with 300 hotels across the region. That, again, is not just in the city of LA or venue cities, that's beyond, well beyond. And those 300 hotels represent 300,000 contracted room nights across the Olympic and Paralympic period. So if you think about that period in this way, that like tourists might come into town and they might come in to see beach volleyball in Long Beach. They might come stay in Long Beach. They might go down to Anaheim and hit Disney World. They might go to other areas, right? But they're here for the games in that sense. Our stakeholders are coming to work on these games, right? So they're arriving before the games. They're staying during the games, often staying in between the games, that 2-week period in between the Olympic and Paralympic period, and through the Paralympics. So our stakeholders are living and working in your communities and eating and drinking in your local restaurants. So as that plan solidifies, we'll be sharing with municipalities, who those stakeholders are. So maybe you guys can help roll out the red carpet, right? National houses. I know that Mayor O'Brien and Councilmember Goodell will be speaking about this a little bit as well. But for those of you that don't know, national houses are a way for National Olympic Committees, National Paralympic Committees to really showcase their culture during a games, right? So again, some of the better resourced countries will go into a city and set up a national house to showcase their culture. The example that I'll use is Team USA in Paris. Obviously a well-resourced team. They took a historic, beautiful building in the center of Paris that was part of the original Paris Stock Exchange, and they set it up there to showcase the games, for fans to meet athletes, to have a drink, take a break, watch the games. There was also merch available. The Ralph Lauren, which provides the uniforms for Team USA, had a merch store there, so people can go in and hang out, right? And so those NOCs and NPCs are already coming into town, already talking to a lot of municipalities, and a lot of municipalities think like, hey, it's only something that might be of interest to for LA or the venue cities, and that's simply not the case, which Mayor O'Brien and Councilmember Goodell will get into. And then lastly, volunteers. Every games needs volunteers. The LA28 games will be no different. Typically, OCOGs set up their volunteer portal about 2 years before the games. So we'll be setting ours up very soon. I would look for it in 2026, but the best way for your constituents to start thinking about that is to sign up for our newsletter at the LA28 website or follow us on our social channels. And with that, just please mark your calendars. The Olympics are coming up. Opening ceremony, July 14th, 2028. Paralympics opening ceremony, August 15th, 2028. And we certainly hope you're excited about these historic games as much as we are. Thank you.
Well, thanks, Vic. I think that sort of gives us a good context for what the games are going to look like and what the expectations might be, and hopefully starts to raise some questions in your minds. I want to go to Councilmember Goodell. Given that we're 3 years away, and you all are not a venue city, but apparently you've been working on this for a while. So how have you been planning to showcase your city and understand, or how have you come to understand what your city could do or offer the games as you had imagined it?
Well, as soon as we learned that LA had been awarded the games for 2028, we began to ask ourselves and a lot of other people, what can we do to be a part of this? In 1984, we had the very first gold medal events in Mission Viejo, the bicycle road race, and the first 2 gold medals of the 84 games were awarded right on the street in Mission Viejo. And we wanted to try to bring back that glory that we felt and the heritage and the just the pride that we had in that to our city again. And so we started a committee. Now we call it our Sports and Economic Tourism Committee. And it's made up of members of the community and members of the council and members of our staff. And we've been working on this very diligently for 8 years. And we had a little pause there in the middle with COVID in 2020. We had just launched our website to this effect. But anyhow, we've been working on it a long time. And so we looked at our resources, and we also talked to LA28, some of our contacts there. And they told us really that the IOC wanted to keep the games in LA proper this time, not spread them out all over Southern California. Now we know that's not quite the case, but anyhow, so we couldn't count on hosting any medal events or any competitions in our city, but we could take advantage of what we do have. Our strengths are our facilities and our people. And so we have wonderful sports facilities in Mission Viejo. You know, we don't have a pier, we don't have an ocean, we don't have Disneyland. What do we have? We have fields, we have pools, we have a lake, we have different things that we can put to use to become a home away from home for these National Olympic Committees. And so we began marketing that very diligently. And in fact, I've traveled to many parts of the world over the last at least 4 years. I've been to Chile to the Pan American Games. I've been to Brisbane, Australia, to the Oceania National Olympic Committee's General Assembly. We were in Paris at the Olympic Games, and I recently returned from Palau from the Pacific Mini Games down in the South Pacific. So we've been working it. and meeting and greeting and welcoming and inviting them to come to Mission Viejo for several years now, because we knew it was on, especially when they had closing ceremonies in Paris last summer. 2028 was on. It was on the next day. And so we have been working very hard on that. And I can't tell you how many countries, we've probably brought representatives of 15 to 20 National Olympic Committees in to our city to tour the facilities. And we struck a deal with one of the biggies. The Netherlands is going to make Mission Viejo their home base for 2028. In fact, they're coming back on the 1st of next month to finalize everything. They're bringing all their national team coaches to look at all of our facilities and begin their plans in earnest for 2028. And all the other countries that are well-resourced, I like that, the way you said that, are doing the same thing. And so we've already signed deals for the United States Olympic diving team, the Japanese Olympic diving team, the French Olympic diving team to train at our facilities. We have the Netherlands and Australia looking at our swimming facilities. We have Netherlands at our Saddleback College athletic facilities and many of our high schools. And we've created, this committee we have is created with the college, with the school districts and all the school facilities. We have 4 high schools in Mission Viejo, and we have wonderful other fields and facilities that the city owns. So all of these things have come into play, and we've been working as a group now for a very long time to meet this need and to build this groundswell amongst our community to be a part of the 2028 games. And it's going to be fabulous, but it's on. And so I'd say that the first thing you probably need to do is make sure that your team in your cities are committed to doing this. It really boils down, in my opinion, to diplomacy. We've been very diplomatic in how we've approached this and going to them, not waiting for them to show up and ask for, what do you got? It's like we're going out there and marketing to them and talking to them and inviting them and those sorts of things. So anyhow, I don't know if I answered your question completely, but
you did. And I just want to note that I think some of us witnessed the signing ceremony between between the city and Netherlands in Paris last year. So we've known about this, and we're glad you're here to talk about it so that we can hopefully encourage and teach others on what opportunities might be out there in terms of actualizing the effect of the games in their community. I want to go to Mayor O'Brien and sort of ask the same question and maybe add to that in terms of where are businesses and the people in the city, how are they involved in this conversation that you're having in being a part of the Olympic Games?
Yeah, thank you for having me. It's really an honor being next to a gold medal winner. Dan O'Brien, if you haven't forgotten, but I have the namesake, another gold medalist. He kind of blew it in the 88 Olympics or 84 and then came back in 88. And got
not going to hold that against you.
Yeah. I actually reached out to him and he's responded, we're going to do a little thing. It'll be fun. So yes, to everything that Councilmember Goodell said, it's been a full court press for me. I've really taken this on, and our city is behind us. I just don't think the city quite realizes how much of a lift it's been. I completely agree that it's a diplomatic mission. 2 weeks ago, Culver City just hosted the Los Angeles Consular Corps. We had 28 of the 91 nations show up, and it was all about the Olympics and business. And that was a really aggressive effort on our part to impress upon these nations what Culver City is about. Many of you may have heard that it looks like we're going to have the New Zealand house in Culver City. The announcement's been made public. The interest is mutual. It's going before council for final vote on Monday. So keep my fingers crossed on that everyone's in line on that ideal. But that's going to be a big moment for us. This has been a great learning experience for me. I met Vic about 3 years ago, right after I was elected, I talked about the Olympics as being a great opportunity for Culver City. Reached out to Vic. We had a meeting, and he was really clear to me at that point, being a representative of the venue cities, that while he's been a great sounding board this whole time and helped direct me where to go, it really is on the non-venue city shoulders to go after these nations for training facilities, for hospitality houses. So I know in Vic's slide it said hospitality is one aspect, and then national houses is another. The term is hospitality house, where that nation's fan zone is, and where they show their culture. There's probably about a dozen or so top tier hospitality house nations that have the high resources to put on a big event space. And I know from my background as a filmmaker, I'm a TV and film editor. I've had a couple of films in the Sundance Film Festival, and I see how Sundance completely takes over Park City each winter. Storefronts are subleased and they're turned into event spaces. Literally, not a single storefront in their main street. If anyone's been to Park City, it's about, I think, 4 blocks long. They don't operate as their daily retail usage. They become event spaces. And I took that experience of my own and thought any space in Culver City is a possibility for a hospitality house. And I've reached out along with our staff to private property owners. We've looked at our own assets within the city, the municipally owned venues that we have. Could this be converted into some sort of event space? And we put together a presentation deck that we share with nations and say, these are all possible locations. And we're kind of the matchmaker for the most part. We have very few public spaces that can be used. An example of that, though, is New Zealand, and that's why there needs to be a vote that's going before council. We are talking about offering up a large public space, our downtown plaza, to be used by the Kiwis for 18, 19 days. So we've worked through those details, and I think we've come to a place where hopefully we're going to get 5 votes on Monday. But then we have our Culver Hotel that's adjacent to that. So that's a private negotiation that's going on there. And on the other side, Amazon operates another piece of property, Amazon Studios, and they're talking things through with them on that. So you need to be able to be working with your business community, be really flexible and nimble in your thought of what spaces can be, and be very assertive in reaching out to nations to show off what you have. Culver City is really fortunate. We've got the Expo rail line going right through Culver City. We've got the 405 and the 10 going through Culver City. We're 5 or 6 miles from UCLA, where the athletes village is. We're 6 miles from LAX, where most people are going to be landing. Clearly they'll be landing in Burbank and Orange County as well. But you jump on the rail, you're 15 minutes to the Coliseum, you're 22 minutes to the crypto, the downtown LA. So we have a lot of things that we're just really fortunate to have, and we show that off. We say that we are really easy. Small city. A lot of these nations don't realize that Los Angeles is 88 different municipalities. So what makes your city stand out from the others? A lot of cities have large diaspora from different nations that make your city home. I think that's a great opportunity. I think the Croatians are going down to San Pedro, I heard, because there's a large Croat community down there. So I think you should really take a close look at all of your assets, what makes your city special, and you've really got to be dedicated to be reaching out and being persistent. It's a little bit of the Wild West. There are brokers and agents that work for National Olympic committees, and they're touring them around, and National Olympic committees talk to one another. It's a community. So if you show well to them, that gets around to the other nations. And I just by our activity and my activity, And by the way, they really appreciate being shown around by the elected officials, by the mayor. You know, many of us, most of our cities have rotational mayors, and I've been told, you know, there's concern that I'm not going to be mayor next year. And I'm like, it's just a ceremonial title. I'll be around, and the next, you know, the next mayor will be, I hope, you know, is assertive as I am and as diplomatic as I am. But I'm going to be pushing. I was pushing this before I was my turn on as mayor, and I'm going to be pushing it after. We also have a subcommittee that was formed. So we're talking about an entertainment zone, similar to what Santa Monica did, and allowing you to walk with alcoholic beverages across the street. We're being nimble and flexible with the idea of shutting down our downtown core to traffic during the games. It's going to be a really challenging security issue for us, and that's a concern for our community. How much we're going to spend on public works, fire, police during that time. It might be easier to just not allow cars in that area. We're thinking things through and being really flexible and nimble and considering all opportunities. But you need to be, just so you know, I started this not as far back as Mission Viejo, but a couple years ago. We started on this path, and I'm so assertive. Did anyone go to the U.S. Mayor's Conference this January? The Spanish ambassador hosted a big event. I tracked her down. I gave her my card, and I said, Spain's got to come to Culver City. And I thought maybe she didn't. And I did a follow up, and we had a couple of emails back and forth. But when we hosted the consular corps 2 weeks ago, the Spanish consul general came up to me and he said, "I heard you talk to the ambassador in DC, and she wants to come out and see." So it's important. It's really important.
Well, I think I had two more questions before we go to regional council questions, but you answered one of my questions, which is what advice you have for other cities. I think you covered that well, both of you did. But there's also the idea of coordinating between cities, maybe not just one city making the pitch, but maybe coordinating with cities that have some affinity to be able to do some of this. So I think your responses have been good to that. The last question I have before we take questions from the regional council is, how do you balance the short-term activation, the short-term hunt and inviting and bringing folks to come see the city and selling the city with your long-term community goals? Because one of the things that you will see in the program development framework that Sarah presented, that the regional council hopefully will adopt today, is this is one of the elements of what we are trying to do with the games, is to have this legacy opportunities for the entire region post games. So how do you balance this short-term excitement to go after the games with what exactly is going to be left when the games are done? I want to start with you, Councilmember Goodell.
Well, thank you. Well, we see it as a part of our, again, as the long-term legacy of our, in our community that started even well before 1984 Olympics. We've had many Olympians come out of Mission Viejo, especially out of our water in Mission Viejo, and our divers and our swimmers. I was the first one in 1976. I won 2 gold medals in Montreal in the 1500 meter freestyle and the 400 meter freestyle races in the 76 Olympics. Thank you. So it's a long-term legacy that we have in our community, and a commitment to excellence, I'd say, in our facilities, in our training, in our support of our community. It just is the way it is in our city. It's the way we do it. And so we see the long-term commitment that this just enhances that. It's almost like a boost to what we already experience in our city. And we know how much of a boost it gave us in 1984 when the Olympic Games were held. Some of the games were held there. And so we want to continue to invigorate our community, especially our young people, but all our people, really. We just want to give them that vision, that dream, that idea that there's more out there in the world that they can strive to be, great, right? To be great. So in terms of expense, we are looking at spending money on certain things, in particular transportation for the the teams that are coming to train, we've committed to helping to solve their transportation issues, which I know is a big part of this motion today, to get them from the airports to their training home base in Mission Viejo, and then back to UCLA to the Olympic Village, or back and forth if they need to go back and forth. And so that's a big piece of it, because that's a big headache for a lot of them to worry about. How are we going to get all these people where they need to be? And then, so that's kind of a sunk cost. It will be for us, but that's not that big of a deal in terms of the overall picture. And then in terms of, you know, the long-term boost to our economy, our restaurants, our hotels, and everything else that goes along with it. You know, when these athletes come right before the games, they're not training all the time. They're actually resting most of the time. They've already done the heavy lifting, if you want to put it into that analogy, heavy lifting. Now it's time to get ready and fine tune and hone and rest and be ready to compete. And so a big part of that is, what are they going to do in their time off? You know, they're going to go to the movies. They're going to go to the mall. They love the malls. Okay. They absolutely love the malls. If you've got a outlet mall, you should be talking to them. So anyhow, so that's a big thing for a big aspect of what we're doing. That's why we call our committee the Sports and Economic Tourism. We're a sports tourist destination, but it's for our, you know, it boosts our economy. And let's see, what else would I add to that? There was another piece of it. Oh, working with the other cities. So recently we invited the city manager and council members from San Clemente to come and join us at our committee meeting, because they were recently awarded the surfing contest with very little information, by the way, about what they need to do or how they're going to go about doing it or how to do what we're doing, you know, what we're doing. So we said, come and be part of this, and we'll teach you what we've done, and we'll help you, we'll help guide you, we'll support you. And same with some of our other cities around. Some of our other cities near us have some of the facilities that we're going to need. I mean, as I mentioned, we're already booking some of our, like our diving facilities, pretty much booked out. You can't get another team in there for 28. But other cities have those types of facilities. So we will help find those homes for the teams that need them, that come to us and are, you know, asking for that. So it's a very much of a collaborative effort in South Orange County with us and our neighbors to take advantage of this opportunity and also help the overall system.
Yeah, got it. So short term, long term. I mean, the short term is clearly the immediate economic benefit. We just ran some numbers on projections, and just the New Zealand house itself could bring an additional economic impact to our indirect economic impact. So good spot, you know, at the cash register of about $2 to $4 million over 16, 18 days. And then the indirect, it can go all the way up to $5 to $8 million. And that's, you know,
compared to what's the
compared to normal. I'm not sure what the normal number is, but that was based on a range of an estimate of 96,000 visitors during that period. And this is New Zealand giving us these numbers, and it's based on they've been doing this for many Olympics. They're one of the old. New Zealand's a small country, but in the hospitality house space, they're top 5 nation. People come to go to their hospitality house to watch a haka, to celebrate all those things. So that's the short-term hit. But I've learned from a couple of other nations, and this is where it's really exciting. And I pitched this idea when I had the consular corps over, is a few other nations are talking about setting up kind of a business incubator hub a couple of years ahead of the games. And this is a great way to mitigate the huge expense it's going to be for these nations to put on these hospitality houses. If they already have some sort of space that they've leased out 2 years in advance, and they have a 3 or 5 year lease that they've signed, they can then convert that space into their hospitality space during that very short window of time of 6 to 8 weeks during the games. Imagine how challenging it is to have a commercial property as the landlord, and you're, 3 years from now, you're asking if you could lease it out for only 6 to 8 weeks. So a lot of commercial property owners, which have great spaces, aren't quite ready to commit to that because it's going to displace their current tenants. So that's a great potential and a great concept, I think. And my sense when we did the presentation a couple of weeks ago, that a lot of I saw eyebrows raised because they are really concerned about the cost of putting on these hospitality houses. It's they came to the States about a year ago scouting places, and then they all ran home and they told their sponsors that they need more money. For everything, for hotels, for hospitality, for all of it. So cost is a big concern of theirs. A lot of these nations also want to leave a legacy. They want to leave something behind. So I've been leaning into that. We have, and I know this is a no build games, but we all need, public infrastructure improvements, right? We need better streets, better sidewalks. We need our parks improved, all those things. So I'm looking at that from two places. Okay, National Olympic House, do you want to be a part of that for us? And we can put a plaque or a statue and memorialize that. And to the community, this is a great opportunity for us to put on our best, our best version of ourselves. So I'm going to be going to our community with a bond proposal so that we can make all those elements in our city the best they can be in 2 years. And yeah, that's part of a quick build concept, but it's a long-term benefit. So those are some great opportunities as well. And I also think Brian touched on the kids. There's a great opportunity to New Zealand's very big on this. They want to start working with our schools immediately and start, sharing culture. So sister cities, teaching them about, clearly we share the same language with New Zealand, but there's many nations that do not. So there's some great opportunities for language learning. Can you build an ambassador program in your city? I think there's a lot of great opportunities.
Thank you. I'm going to come back to you, Vic, on LA 28 and mobility, but let's take some questions from the regional council. I see Steve Sanchez and Alan Wapner and Sandoval for now, and President Allen.
All right. Thank you very much. Great presentation. La Quinta out in the Coachella Valley has a Ironman every year, and you're correct. The athletes come way before the event. They stay there, their trainers, their staff, their family. They spend a lot of money in the community. This is a million times bigger, obviously, than the Ironman, so it'd be a great benefit for the region. But I'm curious as to when we're talking about the legacy, how are we measuring the success of this? Right, there's a lot of taxpayer money is going to be invested in infrastructure, which I'm glad you touched on that. A lot of that should be looked at as permanent infrastructure, not just for the Olympics. It's great that the Olympics are coming. This is a good opportunity to get a lot of these projects done, but especially for our Paralympics, right? How are we ensuring that a lot of these infrastructures really stay in place and don't leave once the Olympics leave and leave us back where we were, right? Needing better parks and streets and things like that. And then, are we looking at measurable benchmarks like TOT, sales tax? Is it ratings? How are we measuring? Like, this was a successful Olympics, right? Because and first of all, it's great that it's coming, but how are we measuring it compared to maybe where it's been done in other areas?
You want to take on it?
Sure. Yeah, there's a lot there. I think in terms of success, we want to put on a hugely successful games, the greatest games ever, not just the biggest, but the greatest games ever. But in terms of success, we also need to be, to your point, financially responsible with these games. If you don't know, we've got a huge budget, right? But the city of LA is a financial backstop to these games, as well as the state of California. So our chairman, Casey Wasserman, has made it 100% clear we will not go over budget for these games. And that, for us, is a part of that success, right? Not having to go into the financial backstop so that taxpayers don't have to foot that for any overages to these games. But I think another big success is something that we're already taking on. And Kome, you had talked about like what municipalities are doing in the short term and the legacy, right? LA28 in the short term, obviously, we need to put on these games, right? We have less than 3 years to do it. And that is our mission, is to put on these games. But in terms of legacy, we're not waiting until after the games to get this for a legacy. We've already committed $160 million to City of LA, Play LA program for youth sports so that kids in the community can participate in youth sports at zero to no cost. That's a huge barrier to participation in sports. A lot of people don't know, like, why is track so popular, right? Because all you need is a pair of sneakers, right? So this way, kids can really participate. We're not just doing it in the city of LA. We're partnering with one of our commercial partners, Nike. We're getting out into the community to do activations with our partners like the Boys and Girls Club, et cetera, to do things in the community where kids can pick out their own Nike basketball or football. The girls can take a sports bra, right? These are things that are barriers to youth participation in sports. And at the end of the day, one of the things that I'm most proud of is that these games are already inspiring the next generation of athletes and leaders. Kids that are coming to our events that participated in our recent Olympic Day celebrations, some of those kids are going to be the next Olympian, the next Paralympian. And it's something that we as an organization are really proud of.
You want to address any? Because
Yeah,
you already talked about the potential of revenue over and above normal. I mean, that's one measure of success. But I imagine there are others that you're looking at.
I think the measure. I hope that at the end of the games, we have a number of new businesses that have come to Culver City because they discovered us through the Olympics and through the nations that we've partnered with. And so, we all know that we're dealing with a housing crisis, and it's right now pretty much the only thing that's being built is housing. But we got to pay for all these. We need business
services. Yeah.
We have to generate business. So I've been really pressing on that. As very recently, I've really evolved in my perspective on what this can be for Culver City. And I really do think it's an opportunity to bring international business to our city and to bring it here before the games and have it stay afterwards. LA is internationally, in the climate that we're in, the political climate we're in, it's a really friendly place for the international community to come to. So I'm leaning into that in a big way. And then, the lasting thing is the infrastructure. I want to use this to catapult the city into improving all of our infrastructure. That, most of our cities are 70 to 100 years old, and all of that's, aging. Our schools are aging. All of our public buildings are aging. Our streets, our sidewalks are all aging. It really came to my mind when I went to Bend, Oregon recently, and they're really building out. They've doubled their population in the past, I think, 10 years. And you see all these brand new sidewalks and everything, and it's built in a way that's in the way we're trying to do, where there's room for bikes and there's bus lanes and things like that. And so I'm wondering what that'll look like in 30, 50 years when it starts to, see some wear and tear. So we need to find ways to do this. And I think this is a great opportunity.
I have about 4 or 5 more questions, so I want to make sure your responses are a little shorter. We'll go to Councilmember Wapner, and then we'll go to Mayor Sandoval and Ms. Kelly over there, and then Ms. Finley.
Thank you. I truly appreciate the
And then we'll
conversation.
end with
I'm sorry that
the
I was
president. Go ahead.
Thank you. I appreciate the conversation and congratulations, Mission Viejo and Culver City. I'm definitely going to have my staff contact your staff because I think that's pretty exciting. I wasn't aware that you could do that kind of stuff. But I'm a bit frustrated, and I think I've expressed this before. When Mayor Garcetti came out and talked about the Southern California Olympics, and we wrote letters of support and everything else, and then we come to find out it is not by any means. In fact, we have venues in Inland Empire that were here for the '84 Olympic. We even had venues that were listed in the original list of venues. They were all yanked out of Inland Empire. We're not included. In fact, excuse my sarcasm, it's my frustration.
Could you move the mic up a little bit?
Oh, I'm so sorry. This is how it goes. Start over. You don't want me to start over.
That's all right.
I'm just getting to the punchline, please. Excuse my sarcasm, but I honestly think that you're at the wrong meeting. You really ought to be at LA Metro. We represent 6 counties here, 191 cities. And frankly, 99% of what you had to say was relevant only to LA County and the city of Los Angeles. That really concerns me. Or maybe Oklahoma City Chamber of Commerce. I don't know. Now I'm going to talk on the mobility part. I represent Metrolink as a liaison for LA 28. I'm also chair of our local transit agency and the representative for San Bernardino County. When you came out with a car-free Olympics, it was a bit ambitious because I don't think anyone really looked at what car-free means. I met with the LA 28 folks and we said, look, on behalf of Metrolink, we need some funding. Well, they said, we've had this discussion with LA Metro. We told LA Metro we're going to take care of it. I said, do you understand LA Metro does not represent Southern California? It's the city of LA. And in fact, if you listen to Mayor Bass, she doesn't even have enough money to buy the coaches, elite coaches that they're going to need. So we've had conversations, and we had a conversation early about Metrolink. I can tell you right now, our board feels very strongly about this, is you probably won't have Metrolink service to the Olympics. I mean, unfortunately, we have no funding. We are a JPA. We're funded 100% by the member agencies. Our member agencies can't kick in the money that we need to lease new car sets and bring in all the staff and everything. And so the response was, well, go lobby for some money. Oh, okay. So it's our responsibility in competition with LA 28 to try to get some funding. And frankly, I think we really have to look at the reality. I have no money to use my transit. We're gonna have to serve our folks. Metrolink is not going to give up on the passengers we have right now, and we just don't have the resources to service. I think at some point someone needs to wake up and understand we can have folks staying in Ontario coming into our airport, but there's no way to transport them from Ontario to Los Angeles. Someone needs to look at that, and we keep trying to work with LA 28. It's unsuccessful. They think working with L is all they need to do. And excuse my frustration, but I think it expressed it on behalf of most of the Inland Empire.
Well, I'm sorry to hear your frustration. Unfortunately, I think the right people that you should be speaking to, and you indicated you're already speaking to them, are on our transportation team. But I'm happy to take back your feedback to our transportation team and have them circle back. We really want to make sure that we're communicating and addressing your frustration. I'm just not in a position to really speak on transportation. The reason I'm here today is to talk about opportunities for venue cities as opposed to really doing a deep dive into transportation.
And I think at some point we'll that's a great point that's made. I think there's still some gaps on mobility, like Councilmember Wapner talked about. The Games Mobility Executive Team is working on that. At some point, we'll need to come back and brief on what the plans are for mobility for the games. I think that's very specific. We'll go to Mayor Sandoval and.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for the presentation. Thank you, Vic, and thank you, Council Member and the Mayor. I have a lot to say. I can certainly appreciate Councilmember Wapner's concerns. I will just say, from what I understood, is this: we're in some respects talking really about non-venue cities, right? And how non-venue cities can still bring the Olympic Games and the fan experience and the live sites to its residents. So it isn't just purely an economic question. It is, how do we enhance the social fabric of our communities for people to be able to connect to each other around Summer Olympic sports? right? So Pomona has the privilege and the fortune of hosting cricket. While I'd love to have an international airport, I know they're going to fly into Ontario and they're going to stay in hotels. Ontario, you have a lot more hotels than we do. I suspect we'll stay in hotels in that region. I will just tell you that one of the steps that we've taken in the San Gabriel Valley is, as part of the Council of Governments, we set up a committee of let's learn as much as we possibly can and figure out how we work together as a region to bring our community, even if they don't attend events, that they can still participate in the Olympic Games, right? And to me, it really speaks to this region, the diversity of our region, the diversity of experiences. There's an opportunity to host a house. How I'm thinking of it, and just talking to Mayor Dutre, is how the Pomona Valley cities can come together, perhaps, right? Maybe we don't all have the same resources, some of the cities that have been mentioned here, but collectively we do. And cricket being the second most popular sport in the world, we anticipate a lot of people coming through Pomona. And if we can create those types of experiences that the region can benefit from, right? Laverne, San Dimas, Glendora, Claremont, right? Montclair. It's a Dime sorry, Steve. This is a win-win opportunity for all of us. But we have to be organized. You said you started 2 years ago, right? I'm just saying, for those of you who are part of the Council of Governments, that's just one way in which you can tap into the possibilities to bring people together and to represent the very best, not just of Los Angeles, but the Southern California region.
Thank you, Mayor. I think there are a lot of opportunities to collaborate, and I want to take one more question, then we'll come to President Allen.
Can I make a quick recommendation?
Sure. We'll go to Councilmember Kelly after you make the.
Okay, it would be a good idea. There's also sport federations. I would reach out to the Cricket Federation, and you should be, and you already mentioned that there's nations that tend to excel in cricket, being after them as well.
Yeah.
And there's tiers to hospitality houses. There's a tier 1 where they're booking these spaces today, and then tier 2, they might just take a whole restaurant. I talked to Team Ireland. They're looking for an Irish pub, a big one where so that they could have, and they'll just rent out that pub for 2.5 weeks. And then there's nations that only have like one great Olympian that has a chance of medaling, and they're going to want to have a restaurant for one night to celebrate that, that Olympic moment. So there's opportunities there as well.
Councilmember Kelly.
Yes, thank you. Trish Kelly, and I serve on the Mission Viejo City Council with Brian Goodell. So I've been able to watch this process and be a part of this process. We had one council member who pushed back a lot, was opposed, and of course a few residents who come to voice their opposition of almost everything. But if you could just touch on what are the resources required, like staff time, police, fire. I know you touched on it, but then those associated costs, and how do you get your opponents to see beyond those costs and see the return on investment, and then really sell it to the community? And Brian Goodell has been our secret weapon in Mission Viejo, not only because of his stature as an Olympian, but also he knew to start early, and he knew where to go and what to do. But I think a lot of people see the drain on staff and the costs, and who are you going to be displacing from our residents on their facilities. So maybe touch on how to overcome a few of those.
Real quickly, just briefly.
Sure. Well, one thing we've done, Trish, as you know, we realized that to sell the story to the members of our community is we needed data, and we didn't have any data, or not much. anyhow, but we've always been a place where we have a lot of sports tournaments, soccer tournaments, baseball tournaments, football championships, and all sorts of things like that. But we didn't have good data, relevant data to show what that really produced. So we've now engaged consulting firms that track that data for us and provide it after most of our big events. And it was surprised even recently we had a small event. It was kind of like a mini county fair. It was called Barbecue and Music Festival, I think is what we called it. And Tricia and I were judges of the barbecue contest, the barbecue ribs that were delicious. And anyhow, we were able to track all the visitors, every single visitor, where they came from, how much time they spent there, approximation of how much money they spent there, and where they went when they left. And it was amazing to find out that I think we had about 8 to 10,000 people a day at that event, and 5% of them stopped at one of 3 gas stations on the way out of town. We were able to track the fact that they were filling up their tank in Mission Viejo, which led to a little bit of sales tax. But anyhow, I mean, it's amazing the level of detail that you can find out from things like that. So, we've been building a database of that information to be able to prove the fact that if we if you build it, they will come and they'll spend their money, and we'll be better off, and it'll cover the investment that we're making to do it. So I don't have a complete answer for you and how that's panning out, but we will have that answer, and we're gathering all the data. So that's one thing to think of. I'm not sure I have anything else.
We only have about 5 minutes
Okay.
left, so I want to make sure I get 2 more questions in. I think it was Ms. Finley and then President Allen. Then we have to close real quickly.
Okay, thank you. Sorry. I don't think it's any surprise to go ahead and think that when there is going to be LA 75 or whatever it's going to be, most of us aren't going to be around for that, for the next Olympics here in LA. But I was at a COG meeting. I think, Tim, you were even there about 3 or 4 weeks ago, and where we thought there would maybe be 15, 20 people show up, the room was packed. So clearly, smaller cities like we have in the San Gabriel Valley really want to participate in this in one form or another. So, Vic, I appreciate your coming here, and obviously Culver City and Mission Viejo are really on top of things. So again, as Alan said, we'll be contacting your staffs on that. But is there something that that we can do right now? Get online and become educated on this, again, for smaller cities that don't have a staff yet.
Yeah, I thank you for that. I'd suggest 2 things. One, familiarize yourself with the LA28 website. You can also sign up, like I said, for those newsletters. But one other thing, and I'm always surprised that electeds don't know about this, but one thing that's been, I think, valuable for a lot of the cities, at least within LA County, and I can speak to other, I know this is a regional games and beyond, but at least the 88 cities within LA County, LA County is actually doing convenings called the 88 for 28 convenings. They're quarterly convenings, and they've been inviting staff from all of the cities, all of the 88 cities, and to come hear about the games. And we've, LA 28 has been participating, City of LA has been participating, LA County, Metro, et cetera, is coming to share information. And so that's a really great way to hear about the games. And like I said, Rachel and I are here too. So if you mentioned San Gabriel Valley, we're going to be speaking at the San Gabriel Valley COG just next week. So if there are conversations that need to be had, Rachel and I are here, and we're always happy to have that conversation. We speak a lot with staff at non-venue cities, but A lot of times electeds don't hear about it, but we're always happy to have a conversation or to get out and assess a public speaking opportunity.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Sorry. And really, this is why we have this session, by the way, is to spread this conversation beyond just LA and LA County to the entire region. We'll continue to do that. There is a convening going on today at the convention center that includes everybody across the region that may have been informed at the staff level. And so these convenings are going on a regular basis. It's just being familiar with it, I think, is important. I want to go to President Allen, and then we'll probably need to close.
All right, thank you, Comey. I just want to say thank you to the councilman, the mayor, and Vic for all that you do in your work in relations. I think you work great with our cities. You know, I live in a venue and I'm looking out the window and I already see the Olympians here. I see them swimming out in the ocean. I live in the building with an Olympic coach who does our cycling team. And he's like, Cindy, can you help me out? I said, sure, happy to help you out. I said, what do you need? He's like, I need a pool. I said, a pool? You're a cycling team. He's like, yeah, I need a pool because I'm going to throw the bikes in, have the Olympians put their bike together under the water. I said, gosh, I could imagine how good they'll be when they can breathe putting their bikes together. But the reality to me was what this is happening right now. They're here. I think Honorable Sanchez said that they come, but they're here and this is happening. So I think we need to think about how we can offer our resources to those that are here. But my question real quick is I get a lot of questions about volunteerism. And so I know you said you have your newsletter. So what are the cities and LA 28 doing to collect those volunteers?
Yeah, so we actually haven't opened up the portal yet. So right now, if you go onto our website and you sign up for the newsletter, you'll be one of the first to be informed about whether it's volunteers or ticketing, et cetera, right? We expect that volunteer portal to probably open hopefully early in 2026. But that's for LA 28 volunteers, right? There will also be volunteer opportunities and I think the city of LA will certainly have volunteers. I know that the city of Long Beach is also looking at its own set of volunteers, right? Because our volunteers will really be kind of closely around the venues, greeting people as they come off of the metro to direct them to the venue, right? But in like Long Beach, you'll probably want volunteers by like Belmont Shore, right? Or downtown Long Beach, where the business areas are, right? Because you know, people are not just going to be going to the venues. They're going to want to go out. They're going to want to hit an Irish bar. They're going to want to have dinner, right? And they were, you know, this is an Olympic crowd. They're used to being treated and hosted by volunteers. So it's a really important aspect of the games.
Now we can go on this conversation for the next hour or so, but we do have some business to conduct. So before we let the panel go, I just want to mention that we also have a resource on the SCAG webpage, and I think Sarah mentioned that it's scag.ca.gov/LA28. You'll see some resources there. We are engaged in one element of mobility, which is travel demand management. When everybody shows up for the games, how do we make sure those of us that live here can still get around? That's where travel demand management comes into play, and we're working on that for both people and freight. And that's an assignment that this regional council approved many months ago that we have engaged in, and we continue to convene conversations on those. But again, we can be the conduit. If you have any questions about the games in your community, please let us know. We might be able to direct you to the right places. I just want to give a really hearty thank you to our panel members for taking time to join us. Vic, Mayor Brian, and Councilmember Goodell, thank you so much for the time.
Thank you.
Madam President, it's all yours.
Thank you so much for coming.
Absolutely.
To add to your
Thank
reflection.
you. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much for the opportunity.
Absolutely.
And don't hesitate to reach out.
Yes,
If there's any problem.
Thank you.
Thanks.
I know that we still have a lot to cover, so I'm going to do my best to get us out of here at time. So we have about 30 more minutes. So we're going to move this right along. I'm going to go to action item number 2, the resolution for approving Amendment 1 of the FY 25-26 comprehensive budget. And I'm going to call on Cindy Geraldo, our Chief Financial Officer, to present this item.
Hello and good afternoon. Staff is recommending the resolution before you approving the First Amendment to our fiscal year 25-26 comprehensive budget. The amendment incorporates an additional $7 million of federal funding, increasing the overall work program budget from $408.5 million to $415.5 million. On July 30th, Caltrans awarded SCAG $7 million in federal highway planning funds to support 2 key initiatives. The first being $1 million for a resiliency and readiness planning study, and very appropriately, given the conversation we've had here today, another $6 million for a regionally coordinated marketing and communications campaign to promote transportation demand management strategies in support of the 2028 Olympic and Paralympic Games. In summary, with your approval, we will move forward to amend the budget to leverage this new federal funding and enhance SCAG's planning efforts and regional coordination, in particular around the 2028 Games. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any members of the public that wish to speak on this item?
We've not received any speaker cards and there's none in the public, Madam President.
Thank you. Any members from the RC? Wapner?
Thank you so much. Can we also have an incorporate the the World Cup as well? I think that's another important event we need to mobilize as a region. Is that possible to kind of incorporate that?
Working? Okay. Yes, thank you.
Okay.
How do you know? And I don't know. Oh, the light right here. Got it.
Madam President, and we also do have a raised hand by Mayor Frank Navarro online.
Please go ahead.
AV, if we can allow Mayor Navarro to unmute himself.
Yes, I just wanted to move the item with the correction presented by Mr. Wapner.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, we're going to wait on the motions till the end just to save a little time, but thank you. Okay, any other questions? Okay, great. Okay, so let's move now to the consent calendar, please. But before we take action on item 1 and 2 on the consent calendar, I would like to announce a correction of the fiscal impacts section of the agenda, item number 10. Let the record reflect that the correct SCCP grant amount is $52,606,000 and not $25,606,000.
And Madam President, if I could also reflect, there is a need to revise the minutes to indicate that RC member Keith Ike indicated he was in attendance at the RC meeting for June.
Okay, please let the record reflect that. Okay, do we have any members of the public that wish to speak on this consent calendar?
We've not received any speaker cards.
Okay. And any members of the RC?
Move to approve. Can I do that?
Okay. All right. So I'll take a motion to approve action items 1 and 2 and the consent calendar.
So moved.
So
Finley
moved.
second.
I'll say it.
And
Who's
second? Shapiro. Okay.
And Madam President, we'll clarify that also includes the changes you noted to the consent calendar.
Correct. It also includes the changes to the consent calendar, please.
So noted, Madam President. And I just want to verify that the motion was made by David Shapiro, seconded by Margaret Finley. I'll proceed with the roll call if that's okay.
Thank you.
Cindy Allen.
Aye.
Debbie Baker.
Aye.
Austin Bishop. Drew Boyles.
Aye.
Ulysses Cabrera. Martha Cardenas Singh.
Aye.
Margaret Clark. Jenny Crosswhite.
Yes.
Rick Dennison, John Dutray,
Yes.
Keith Ike,
Yes.
Shauna Elias,
Yes.
Margaret Finley,
Yes.
Gary Gardner,
Aye.
John Gabbard,
No.
William Go,
Yes.
Mike Goodsell,
Yes.
Kurt Hagman, Jan Harnick,
Yes.
Mark Henderson,
Yes.
Laura Hernandez,
Yes.
Mike Judge,
Yes.
Joe Kalmick,
Yes.
Trish Kelly,
Yes.
Linda Krupa,
Yes.
Patricia Locke Dawson, Vianney Lopez, Clint Lorimore,
Aye.
Steve Manos,
Aye.
Ray Marquez, Larry McCallan,
Yes.
Marsha McLean,
Yes.
Frank Navarro,
Yes.
Nikki Perez,
Yes.
Daniel Ramos, Gil Rebollar,
Yes.
Rocky Rhodes,
Yes.
Steve Sanchez, Tim Sandoval,
Yes.
David Shapiro,
Yes.
Emma Sharif,
Yes.
Marty Siminoff,
Yes.
Karen Spiegel,
Yes.
Helen Tran, Edward Twining,
Yes.
Steve Ty,
Yes.
Donald Wagner,
Aye.
Alan Wapner,
Yes.
Mark Warnick,
Aye.
Aquanetta Warren,
Yes.
Thomas Wong,
Yes.
Jeff Wood, Madam President, the motions for item 1, 2, the consent calendar and the indicated revisions passes with 45 votes yes, 1 vote no, and 0 abstentions.
All right. Thank you, Madam Clerk. Okay, so we're going to go to the information items, the economic roundtable third quarter update. And I'm going to call on Sarah Jepson, our Chief Planning Officer, to introduce this item.
Thank you, Madam Chair. For about 16 years now, SCAG has convened a team of independent economists to support our long-range planning. But we also think it's important that we help our stakeholders have a clear and data-driven understanding of what's unfolding here in the region today and the longer-term potential impacts of what is happening in the economy right now. So in 2022, our economic roundtable started meeting quarterly and reporting out through an economic trends tool that you can find on our website. And it has the latest jobs, unemployment, and housing numbers for the region and its 6 counties. At the request of President Allen, we're going to bring greater attention to the economic roundtable and its report outs here at the Regional Council meetings, as President Allen has suggested to us that the economy should be a priority in all of the work and planning that we're doing here at SCAG this year. So I would encourage you all to take a look at that economic tool. And we've invited here today Wallace Walrod, who serves as the Orange County Business Council's Chief Economic Advisor, and who has been one of our economists working on the economic analysis for years to come and share with you the highlights from our latest quarterly report. So with that, I will hand it off to Wallace and thank him so much for being here today.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Sarah, for the great introduction. I've tried to be very brief. I know time is short, but there's a lot going on in the economy right now. So just to dive right into it, and next little bit is overall highlights. That job growth in the region continues to be, modest and somewhat narrow. And really the only thing that's growing on a region-wide level is healthcare and local government. Those are the only two. I'll get a little bit more into that. And just to update you, at the national level this morning, ADP numbers came out. They were a little bit weaker on the national level for job creation than anticipated. It's about 54,000 positive for the whole nation. It was estimated to be 75,000. And new jobless claims this morning were up a little bit higher than what was projected. And you'll see the actual BLS numbers, job numbers out tomorrow. Next on tariffs, the majority so far has been absorbed by the exporter and the companies in the US. So it hasn't really hit the consumer so far. And that's why in the last numbers that you saw, CPI, the consumer price index, wasn't up that much, but the producer price index was up quite a bit. So companies are absorbing those costs so far. In terms of labor market, we had a discussion about the increased enforcement action, that we wanted to say that 28% of the SCAG region's construction labor force is made up of undocumented immigrants. And other sectors, which I'll get into a little bit later, have seen the effects of that increased enforcement action. And finally, you probably saw we discussed recent CEQA action. These exemptions show promise for reducing some procedural roadblocks for urban infill projects statewide, but there is a little bit of a caveat as well that we discussed. So just to take a little bit of a dive into the job creation, for the whole SCAG region, jobs grew about 53,000 in the last 12 months. That's a pretty low number for the region, fairly weak compared to prior years. And if we didn't have healthcare, we would have actually contracted by 26,000 jobs. So healthcare has really held up the labor market. And a lot of that is because, we have an aging population throughout the region, and you consume more healthcare services as you get older. There have been a lot of investments made in that sector throughout the region. I can speak from Orange County, several new projects. UC Irvine has built a new hospital. City of Hope, Orange County is expanding their campus. We do see, though, that there is some weak job creation in several traditionally higher paying sectors. So like advanced manufacturing, film and sound recording, software development, and professional and business services. And we think that's the beginning impacts of AI on the labor market, is starting to hit those sectors first. So that's muting job growth in those sectors. In terms of tariffs, as I said, Goldman Sachs found that about 60% of the burden so far has been absorbed by the importers or exporters. And remember that only 34% of consumption is based on goods. The rest is services. So very little to no tariff impact on services. And because of that, imports and exports are really only 11% of GDP. That's why you probably see a muted impact of tariffs so far in the overall economy. Did want to talk about some of the federal funding decisions. They have impacted social services, nonprofits and quasi-governmental agencies and other governmental agencies. They've seen severe budget cuts. Universities have also lost substantial amounts of research dollars so far. And then many community and independent hospitals, especially those who are relying on Medicare and Medicaid for reimbursement, they're struggling for sure. Tourism deserves kind of a closer watch. Although theme park attendance was okay during the summer, we did see a large drop in international visitors. We can tell that from flights in and out of airports. So that's a bit worrisome as we go into fall and winter. And we are seeing places like Disneyland offering more incentives than they have in the past. And that actually led to Orange County, where tourism is a big part of our economy. We were actually down almost 1% in terms of employment last month during the summer, which is very, very unusual for Orange County during the summer. As I said, immigration enforcement arrests, LAEDC reported on that. They're roughly 5 times higher in LA County than the prior year. As I said, 34% of LA's county's construction workers and 28% across the SCAG region are undocumented. And in food prep, that's 23% in LA County and 19% region-wide. So those and other sectors are being impacted. In terms of CEQA, as I said, it's not a complete overhaul of CEQA, but it does send the signaling value that there's some flexibility there in terms of those exemptions is significant. So basically, most infill projects up to 20 acres are now exempted from environmental review under CEQA. However, there is a provision related to SB 743 and the mitigation of VMT that projects cause. a big part of the new legislation is a statewide mitigation bank. And in talking to some industry reps from the building industry, that could add up to $300,000 per door in terms of impact fees on projects. And that was actually confirmed by our UC Berkeley economist. Just to get very briefly into the counties, Imperial County actually went above 20% in terms of unemployment. That's the highest in over a decade. And developers are developing a lot of solar credit programs there. In terms of LA County, we talked mostly about recovering from fires. It's been very slow, much slower than we anticipated. The revised timeline for recovery is in your packet there, but it's not really until 2033 at this point that we expect 85% of those houses to be rebuilt. Orange County had higher housing production compared to other regions, and drone and autonomous companies and healthcare are the big drivers of the Orange County economy. Unemployment rate in Inland Empire was 6.4%, and 7 of the 17 major industries added jobs. Healthcare, once again, was the top one. And then finally, Ventura County, employment dropped, but the population grew by almost 1,000. That's the first time since 2015. And that was primarily driven by the cities of Ventura and Santa Paula building new housing projects. Imagine that. Building new housing projects attracts residents. And then finally, Port Hueneme, cargo volumes were down 7%. And that in large part is because most of the cargo coming into there are automobiles. And so the tariff impact had some impact there. So just a reminder, we're going to have a full-blown report at the Economic Summit with a panel. And we're also working on an economic impact report for the LA 28 games that we'll release at that December Economic Summit and Regional Council. So with that concludes my presentation.
Thank you very much. Do we have any members of, yes, we can give a round of applause. That's fine.
Thank you.
Any members of the public that wish to speak on this item?
Don't see any, Madam President.
Okay. Any members of the RC? Okay, Supervisor, go ahead.
Yes, great report, good numbers. I took some notes and
yes,
couple concerns. Sorry, Ellen. Why can we not have a separate report for Riverside and a separate for San Bernardino? It's always Inland Empire, the two counties together. We have a separate group of people from each county that are here. We have separate information. I love where the IE, we work together, but sometimes these numbers kind of don't define individually our counties, but together we have a different number. And I think it's really important. And here you don't even have Ventura written down. You were throwing.
It just got cut off. It's actually on the website, the bullet points. So it was just clerical kind of.
Okay, that I could accept. The other one is, this isn't the first time, not to you, but the first time I have said we need to separate Inland Empire, San Bernardino County, Riverside County. So
we will definitely do that in the future.
And there was one more question. Where is it?
The number on Inland Empire again, was it
6.4% unemployment? Is that the percent unemployment? Yes, yes. But
thank you.
Oh, you bet.
All right. I don't see any other.
And if that's the case in Imperial County as well, then I think as you see 20%, there's a lot of difference as well as we're at. So if we're gonna have different counties, I'd like to have Imperial County included. So if we go that way, but just want to throw that out there.
The Imperial is in there. Okay. Okay. Are there any other questions? Okay. All right. Thank you very much for that report. So now we're going to go to the business representative, presidents and executive directors report. I would just ask that you guys be very expedient. We are running behind. So Lucy, I'll hand this over to you.
Yes, thank you, Madam President. Very, very quickly, my report's on page 226, and I'm so incredibly honored to follow Dr. Wallace Walrod, who gives a great report. Just quick notes is, first, we welcomed at the GLUE Council President Cindy Allen, who gave us the business community her updates on her priorities for the year, and we're committed to assisting her. The economy, one little note. We know that Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell indicated that tariffs are probably not leading to permanent higher inflation, and the market, as Wallace has already indicated, has already baked in some of the extra costs, at least for now. And it does look like they are signaling an interest drop coming up. This will be good for housing. And maybe spur a little bit more of our sales. So keep an eye on that. As Randall Lewis will suggest, this could be a good thing for our housing community. One little note, I was honored to participate with the City of Anaheim's city manager, Jim Vanderpool, and City of Buena Park's city manager, Lisa Kim, on a panel in front of 400 staff member at the City of Anaheim to talk about public service and basically the lost art. It's not an art. You guys all live it every day on service. Public service is the act of using our gifts to lift others and strengthen the common good. What does good public service look like from the public sector as well as the private sector? Really great conversation and coming to these meetings and learning as much as I do from all of you, helping our staff survive in uncertain times is really great. Anyway, it was a wonderful honor to be there. I also want to note that Wallace mentioned in his report how AB 130 could be helpful to spurring more housing development by eliminating some of the CEQA barriers that all of us have been advocating for years. But there's one little poison pill that the business community has pulled a coalition together of about 130 groups, both in public and private sector, to ask for a repeal of one of the sections of AB 130, and that is Section 58, that would impose new vehicle miles traveled fees on new housing. One Caltrans study, funded study, found that these VMT housing fees could produce about $16,200 per unit for 20 years, or about $324,000 per unit. And it would impact renters too, driving up monthly rents by a staggering 48% increase, again, according to this Caltrans funded study. So the administration seems to be really quiet about responding to this, but maybe something that a future legislative committee could at SCAG could take a look at from your perspective. Obviously, if builders get stuck with these fees, it means that all the good work of AB 130 to cut the CEQA requirements would just be a waste. And so one of those things businesses really strongly taking a look at. And in the interest of time, that's it. Madam President, I apologize again for not being there, but really appreciate and want a big shout out to Kevin and the team on the economic reports. They're really helpful to all of us in the private sector, as well as your public work.
Thank you very much, Lucy. Real quickly, I'd like to welcome the following new regional council member, Martha Cardenas Singh from the Imperial County Supervisor. So let's give her a round of applause. Okay, real quickly, please register for the 2025 Southern California Democratic Workshop on October 1st at SCAG's downtown office and on live stream. This year's topic, Revisiting the Intergenerational Contract, looks at shifting connections between populations and the 21st century. This year's workshop will feature a keynote from event co-founder, Professor Dow Myers, who is a director of Population Dynamics Research Group at USC Price School of Public Policy. His keynote will address how intergenerational life cycle sharing contributes to future economic success at California as California responds to new population growth realities. the topic of last year's workshop. The full program and panel lineup is on SCAG's website, and you have to register by September 26th. EAC, the Executive Administration Committee, met for its annual retreat at the end of June. And during the meeting, I was happy to share priorities for my term as regional president, which is housing, getting ready for the 2028 Summer Olympics, and clean transportation. The committee also saw presentations from staff and emerging issues, economic analysis, and state climate policy. So just some of the things we talked about, we discussed an outlook on this year's meetings as well as adjustments to our schedule. So please pay attention to this. Meetings of the Executive Administration Committee have moved to Wednesday at 3 p.m. in person and online, and regional council meeting days are on the first Thursday of every month. Policy committee meetings will begin at 9:30 online and in person. Regional council meetings will start promptly at 11:45 and will be conducted in person. And each regional council member will be permitted one remote participation over the year. And finally, a reminder about holidays impact our schedule this year. We will be dark again next month in October to observe the Jewish high holidays, and in January, an observance of New Year. And to make up for the time lost during these months, we have a December meeting again this year. And in December, we will convene our Joint Policy Committee meeting for the annual economic update presentation from the roundtable. Also, in item 14 in your agenda packet is the EAC retreat update, so you can look at that. And lastly, you should have received an email back in July with information on changes for the meeting schedule. If you didn't receive that, you can contact Maggie. And then as noted, there will be no policy committee meeting or regional council meeting in October. Okay, and with that, I'm going to turn this over to Comey.
Thank you, Madam President. In the interest of time, I will go ahead and send you my report through the Executive Director's report that we sent out. But I just want to use the time I have to recognize an award we got for our finance team. The Government Finance Officers of America saw it fit to award us an award of excellence on our comprehensive budget document for 2024. And I just want to take a moment to recognize Cindy and her team for that award.
All right, do we have any future agenda items? All right, any announcement? Okay, then I'm going to adjourn this meeting. Thank you for your participation today. And today we adjourn in the memory of Deborah Ekwatra, the beloved wife of former CEO Hassan Ekwatra. She was not only a wonderful wife and mother, but also a gracious host who welcomed so many of us in her home. Her generosity and unwavering support of her family will leave a lasting mark on every single person that knew her. Our deepest condolences go out to the Hassan family. Thank you very much.